All right, it's been 1 week since I got the Katana, and I have absolutely no buyer's remorse at this point. The problem is, now I have a little remorse over the fact that I have this PV 5150 that I just don't necessarily like the tone of as much as the Katana. I mean, I think part of that is the fact that the PV has a terrible speaker in it. It's just like a PV whatever, nothing special speaker. So if I put a nice Celestian in there, or maybe one of those Guitar Warehouse speakers, it'll probably potentially sound better. But at this point, that Katana does everything that it needs to do. It's pretty amazing. But the difference that I noticed between having it out in the middle of a room and having it up against a wall in a small space, I mean, it really comes alive once you put it out in a bigger room. I mean, it's almost designed to be played out live with in a venue, much more so than just like bedroom volumes and that sort of thing. So yeah, as far as remorse goes, oops, I didn't realize I pulled in front of that guy. There we go. As far as remorse, I think it's deferred sometimes, because once you get that new piece of equipment, number one, you're dealing with the fact that you kind of missed it before, and now you realize that it's great and it does what you need. But then the other part is, for me, I'm sort of looking for particular sounds, and I get frustrated when everything kind of sounds the same, because for me, I seem to have a particular sound regardless of what I play through. And I'm not trying to be presumptuous and say that it's like I've got tone in my hands or anything like that. I think that's kind of ridiculous at my level of playing and everything else. But I think there is a certain amount to be said for technique and the way that you play and the way that interacts with equipment. You're going to pull some of the same sounds out of that equipment based on your picking style, and based on your palm muting style, and based on the way that you play arpeggios and the way you use vibrato and all that stuff. Like, to a certain extent, you're not going to see that much difference in color in an amplifier. I mean, in terms of gain stages, in terms of equalization, different amplifiers themselves certainly have different characters. Some are buzzy, some are really flat, some are super tinny, some are very loud, in terms not of volume but of noise, very hissy. But the Katana is sort of an optimized version of all of the things that I've liked about all of the amps that I've played in the past. And the crunch channel for a solid state amp, it's set up almost to emulate a class AB tube amp in terms of the preamp section and the power section, but it does a really great job of emulating good tube sag and tone. So I think that all in all, it's a pretty damn good amp. But the thing that really sells me on it is the effects, and the fact that I now have everything pretty much on call that I would ever need. And the one exception to that at this point, and there may be another exception because I haven't really played with the wah, but I'm not a stickler for a particular wah. I just like a particular tone range. But at this point, the one thing that's kind of got me, not wowed by any means, but just sort of meh, is the vibrato, the Univibe. There we go. It has a nice tremolo, it has a nice chorus, it has a great phaser, a great flanger, it has a great pitch modulator. What else? Delays are great, reverbs are great. So that's pretty much what I've played with at this point. Oh, and in the preamp section, you can front load a distortion or overdrive pedal, and there's some really good stuff there too. So I'm gonna try to get into more artist presets and see what I can find, but I was able to dial in pretty much what I liked for tone using sort of the same approach that John Petrucci uses for his Mark V, I think it was. There was a video on YouTube a while back where he dialed in his Mark V, and talked about how he had his clean channel set up and how he had his crunch channel set up and how he had leads set up. And it was very informative in terms of a graphic EQ. And the nice thing about the Boss is, in addition to the panel EQ, bass, treble, bass, treble, middle, and then a presence control, and then a sort of a resonance control. In addition to that, you can throw a 7-band EQ into the effects loop, and it just really changes the sound. I mean, I had no idea. So that's certainly something that if I were going to keep the Peavey, I would want to have that as part of the loop. I mean, it's just it's a great thing to have. But I mean, in terms of the Peavey and what I can do with it, I did sort of a side-by-side comparison just for sort of a crunch sound, a nice palm thumpy chug sound, and I mean the Katana had it in spades, and the Peavey was just weak. And granted, I was playing at very low volumes, and the Peavey doesn't really come alive until you really crank up that volume, and it has a shitty speaker, and I wasn't using any outboard effects, and this and that. But yeah, I may get rid of it at this point. Who knows? So that's the initial impressions. I haven't really tried to pull as much as I can out of the Katana in terms of recording. I have tried to do a little bit of recording into GarageBand, and it came in at a really low volume, so there are solutions online on how you can bump that volume. But yeah, we'll keep playing with that and see if I can get it good for direct recording. But other than that, I could always use the line out. So that's pretty much it with the Katana. And now I'm selling the Ibanez 412 cab still. I can't find anybody who's interested in that. And who knows, maybe that Peavey will end up on the chopping block at some point in the near future.